Good evening, everyone. Oh, this is so exciting. Tonight, we're going to have the opportunity to chat about how can we get a better gut? How maybe can we get better results? We're going to talk about some of the secrets to success with plant-based proteins this January. Before we get started, here's a few housekeeping tips. If you are new to Zoom, there's actually a webinar chat where you can say hello. So for example, right now I'm going to say hi on the webinar chat. If you have any questions that come up along the way, feel free to put them in there. And if I don't catch them as I'm going, at the end, I'll definitely take a moment and we can do a little bit of Q&A in case there's anything that you have that has not been an answered question yet. It is coming up to the start time for our webinar, so we will start rolling. Thank you for all of you who have joined us tonight. Oh my goodness, there's so many of you. I'm very excited. Who am I? I am Allison Tannis. It's lovely to meet you. I am a nutritional scientist. I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist, and I specialize in taking science and turning into something the rest of us can actually use. So you may know some of my various books that I've written: Probiotic Rescue, The Healthiest Foods to Eat During Pregnancy, Aging Bites, because it does. But we won't go too much into that tonight. We're going to stick to somebody has raised their hand. Oh, this is fascinating. So we are going to talk all about the gut and how it is that we can have a better gut, what might mean to us in terms of sort of how we're going to feel. Are we going to get better results around that? And it's going to be very exciting. So let's get started. You would like to probably find out a little bit about me. Feel free to look up AllisonTannis.com. That's my website. Lots of blogs, really great information. There's also some podcasts that are out there I've done. There's a social media channel. So if you're interested in learning more about nutritional sciences, ways that you can practical ideas that you can actually enjoy and have a better, healthier life, hopefully some of those tips and tricks from a true next door neighbor kind of a person. These are very sensible, practical tips that I offer for you online. So tonight, though, we are speaking on behalf of Nestle Health Sciences. I thank them very much for having me here. I'm a paid employee of Nestle Health Sciences. I have no other conflicts that I want you to know about, but I do want you to know that some of the products you may see in tonight's presentation, they are oh, this is quite the computer day. There are labels. They're just pictures of labels. So if you do choose to use a product off a shelf, any product, be sure to always read the label of the product that you've picked up and follow the instructions there, just in case it doesn't match exactly what you're seeing on the screen. So today we're going to answer your most common questions when it comes to protein. And I'm hearing a lot about this. As many of us go into the new year, we start thinking, I'd like to eat a little bit better. Hopefully, you've set yourself sort of a sustainable goal this January and into this new year. And some of the best ways for us to do that is to think about what can we be doing in terms of eating more protein. And protein is a really important part. I actually read a fascinating study just this afternoon, and it was just published this year, talking about how we perceive protein. And for most of us, we actually don't realize how much protein we make. And for most adults in North America, we still don't eat enough protein. It's a greater number than we think. So in Canada, Health Canada recommends that we eat about 46 grams per day as a female adult. Men are about 56 grams a day. But that's the minimum amount of protein we're supposed to intake to maintain our general wellness. That's not the number that we need to meet. We actually should be having more than that. I think that's a bit of an important thing to talk about. So we'll talk about how much protein we need. We'll talk about plant-based proteins. I think there's been a lot of information out there about plant proteins. Do I mix them? Do I not? Are they good for me? Is it going to be good enough? We'll talk about some of that science. And then I'm going to introduce you to the protein probiotic connection. And this is fascinating. For those of you who know me as Deliciously Geeky Online, you know I'm very passionate about the microbiome. It's one of my favorite areas of research, and hoping to help us all have a better understanding about that ecosystem that lives in our gut and how that's impacting so many things, including our ability to break down plant-based proteins. So we'll touch that as well in my aim to help you have a better gut and better results this January. We're also going to discuss why gut health actually matters. It's really important. I feel like it's a term we talk about, but the nuances of why should I care is important. And then, of course, I will answer your all-time favorite question I get every time, which is how do I choose a probiotic? So, just sort of a quick 101, just so we're all on the same page. Protein is one of the three sort of big macronutrients we can have. So, we have carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And when you think about your body and you think about the muscle in your body or the connective tissue, you might think of that as being like a ligament, for example. These are things that are built out of protein. And without having protein in our body, we can't have muscles. But it's also interesting to know that protein's involved in building bones or cartilage or your skin, your hair. So protein is involved in so many things. And it's not just a structural thing as well. We also use proteins to send messages throughout our bodies. We use proteins to make enzymes that help us break down food. So there's lots of different ways that proteins play a key role in more than just whether or not your body has muscles, but it's whether or not you can, send messages that need to happen. Can we hear ourselves and we hear our belly saying we're full, or can we, can our brain or our gut talk to each other about are they happy? So there's more to protein than just making sure you have what you need to build those muscles. I know we're all working on, particularly as we get older. I'm sure you know more about science on protein as we age. It's really important because we got to keep our muscles strong so that we can keep doing all the fun things we want to do as we get older. Protein plays, as I mentioned, a few more roles than just sort of that muscle. And I mentioned sort of listening to whether or not our body says, hey, I'm full. And the interesting thing about protein is that it's not just something that we'll break down and then use, it's also a great way to tell your body that maybe we could just eat a little bit less. And I don't know if you've tried this before. I do this sometimes where I'll notice, what did I eat for breakfast? So did I have a piece of toast for breakfast? So I had some carbohydrates. Or did I eat maybe one of my other favorite breakfasts is like Greek yogurt with a bunch of berries on top. That's really high in protein. When I eat things like the Greek yogurt, that protein, it actually makes me feel fuller longer. And it's not just like, oh, it sits in your stomach and it kind of hangs out there for a while. No, it actually lowers something called ghrelin, which is a hormone that stimulates hunger. So by eating the protein, it sort of turns down your hunger signals. And I think that that's really a helpful motivation, particularly for those of us who eat like a fast, quick carb breakfast and then we're starving by 10:30 and then we're nibbling on something not so healthy because we think, well, I should try to hold out to lunch, and then by lunch you're desperate, so then you're reaching for more carbs and it doesn't really help. So put some protein in early in the day and you'll find you can lower that hormone that stimulates the hunger, and that'll help you keep fuller longer. Protein at lunch is also a really great idea because then you feel fuller throughout the afternoon. And when somebody asks you if you want a cookie at 3 in the afternoon, which is really hard to say no to, you may be finding yourself feeling a little fuller and a little more able to do that. And in terms of sort of overall cardiovascular health, what's really great about protein is that it slows down any sort of rapid rises in blood sugar. So if you're having something that has some protein in it, maybe on that Greek yogurt with the berries, you had some granola. Was the granola high in maybe a honey or a maple syrup? That might have caused a high blood sugar level spike. But having the protein there can kind of keep that low, that blood sugar level from rising too quickly. Protein's pretty great, pretty helpful in keeping our body feeling good, giving it the building blocks it needs, helping us sort of avoid appetite or hunger issues, and helping us keep our blood sugar stable, which we know is really important for overall health. Essential amino acids are, when we talk about proteins, there are lots of different types of building blocks that make up protein. I like to think of it as like Lego. So if you've got some kids that make Lego, you probably notice that there are different colors of Lego blocks, and there are a lot of different types of amino acids, but we're just going to focus on sort of the 9 essential amino acids. So isoleucine, leucine, all the way down to valine and histidine are all common ones. But what's really fascinating is there's a group of amino acids called the branched chain amino acids. You might hear people refer to these as BCAAs. So these BCAAs like isoleucine, leucine, and valine, those are branched chain amino acids. What's really neat about them is they get right quickly into the muscles. So when we're talking about athletes or somebody who wants to recover faster, and when I say athlete, you do not have to be a marathon runner. You could be just somebody who enjoys the yoga class, or maybe you're somebody who likes to walk your dog a lot, but you're noticing afterwards your muscles don't feel like they're recovering. You can start thinking about eating more protein that contains these branched chain amino acids. They do suck up into the muscle quickly, which is really helpful. So, how much protein do you need to eat? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Most of us don't really have an idea of how much. So, Health Canada's guidelines are you absolutely at minimum have to have 46 grams a day if you're female and minimum 56 grams for a male. But when we start to look at the science, Health Canada is actually researching and considering, do we need to move that number higher? Do we need to encourage people to take bigger focus on protein? And when I say take a bigger focus on protein, I don't mean shrink the bun and increase the burger size. I I mean like, add some plants in there because I'm a big fan of plants. Everyone needs to eat lots of those. But think about the ratio of all of those food groups. We need all three food groups in our lives to have a truly happy and healthy body. Of course, everyone's unique though, so if you have dietary restrictions, please go and follow what works for you. I did want to point out a few key research studies I looked up because I was curious, how much protein do I need? So adults who are older, and I'm older, so if you're looking at me thinking, gee, you look pretty good, you might be older too. This doesn't need to be like 70. You can be sort of perimenopausal, men closer to 50, even in their 40s. As soon as our body starts struggling to build protein, and this happens kind of in our 40s. Sorry, guys, for the bad news tonight. You want to look at trying to increase that protein intake. And of course, in scientific studies, they don't make it very helpful. They do it in kilograms, grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you can do some quick math, I don't know, maybe you're a 60 kilogram person, or then 1 gram of protein. So it would be about 60 grams per day. And those who are acute or have a chronic illness who are a little bit older, they want to bump it up a little bit higher to sort of support the body as it's recovering. Now, this is always tricky though, like how do you get protein in? And honestly, some people find like 20 grams per meal is a great bar. I actually find it's easier to try to fit protein in throughout my day. So I get some in my breakfast, my lunch, my snacks even. Can I put some almonds in with my apple? Those are sort of great ways to help yourself get more protein into your day. I also find another easy way to get proteins in is to leverage a protein powder. So protein powders are really helpful. They're convenient. They're right there beside you. You can. Some people want to mix them with just a simple ingredient, a liquid of favorite choice. Maybe it's a form of milk or a milk alternative. It could be a juice. I like to throw it into like a smoothie. I think that's kind of fun. I can change up the flavors. But when we're looking for protein powders, sometimes it's a little confusing on the shelf. What we need to look for is something that's called the complete proteins. We want to see all the different amino acids there because you need all those different Lego blocks to build up together to make the protein we need to make. And you want to reach for something that says a protein powder that has 20 grams of protein per serving. Now, as I say that, it's pretty common on the market in Canada to see 20 grams of protein per serving. The other thing to look at is what else is in there. Sometimes it's not just protein in a product. A product out there may contain extra added fat, for example. There might be like an oil added in it or something else that you might not actually want in there. So do read the ingredients of a protein to make sure that it's what you're looking for. What I look for, I always look for things that are clean. So I like organic protein. If it's going to be convenient, a powder, I would like them to do all the work for me. So if you can please give me a certified organic, a non-GMO, super clean sort of protein powder, that's great for me. I can feel like I'm putting something in my body that's nutritious and great. I don't want things like fillers or binders. You don't want to find things like synthetic ingredients or artificial sweeteners or flavors either. But I feel like most of you being Healthy Planet shoppers or Healthy Planet favorites, you probably are finding that the offerings on their shelf are pretty great. And there are some that are organic, there are some that are non-GMO. So you can look for those if that's also something you value like I do. And then I'm always left asking the question. I grew up in the whey protein phase. So that was what we did. We all talked about whey protein when we were growing up as athletes. That was kind of our option. And when somebody says to me a plant protein, I wonder, is that actually a good choice? Like, Is it going to work? Is it going to be enough? Is it going to help my muscles do what I need to do as an athlete? And yes, it does. And I'm sure you're all on board with me on this one. You've seen the science. In fact, if you want to read some of the science, I've put it on the bottom of every slide, the studies that are included. And this one, I'll actually read the quote to sort of help us out here. Current evidence shows that plant proteins can stimulate muscle protein synthesis. That's the body's ability to actually make the muscle. And it can do this with whole foods. Sometimes they suggest combining food groups. It's always a good idea to have a nice, diverse sort of food intake. You don't eat any one thing too much. You can increase your portion sizes if you want to get in more protein. And the other thing to do is look for amino acid bioavailability being increased in the processing of the plant-based protein. Okay, that was a lot of words. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. But just remember that the bioavailability of amino acids in plant-based proteins can be a little hard. Sometimes it's not very easy for our bodies to break up plant proteins. So we need to do efforts to help us break down plant proteins. That's sort of what it's saying there. And that second paragraph, another process that can optimize protein quality of plant foods is probiotics and digestive enzymes. Same problem. Plant proteins are really tough for us to break down. So we want to support our body. Is our gut in a healthy state to help us break down those proteins? Do we have enough digestive enzymes? Some of us, as we get a little older, can't. I have a teenager actually who doesn't have a lot of digestive enzymes either. So some of us need to think about intaking those to support our body's ability to break down proteins. So yes, plant-based proteins are good for muscles. They are certainly sufficient. They can do a great job at helping us building muscles, but some of us may struggle to actually break down plant-based proteins. So we need to look for amino acids that are bioavailable. So if there's a processing done, for example, to the protein is helpful. And we want to think about things like probiotics and digestive enzymes. Plant-based intake is also interesting if we talk about cardiovascular disease risk. And I just want to touch base on this because it's for me, it's not just about eating a food because my body's going to build itself better. I want to know that the foods I'm eating are keeping my body feeling its best. And if you intake your plant-based proteins, this is a huge study, by the way. This is over 700,000 participants followed for 32 years. So big study, lots of people. The more plant-based intake that they had of protein, the lower their risk of cardiovascular disease death went. So this is a big one for me. I know I should eat more plant-based proteins. I see that it's good for me in terms of cardiovascular disease risk. I don't know about you though. I just find it really hard sometimes to get plant-based proteins. It's I guess now some of the drive-throughs have like a plant-based option for burgers, but it's not as driving through and getting a salad, it's not as easy as it is with you getting a burger or a donut. So I know some of you are thinking, but you can. It's just not nearly as healthy. But what about beans and lentils and tofu and all these sort of seeds, nuts? These things can be a little bit more challenging for us to get in. I love that the world has made a plant-based turn and these things are now more available, but I still don't find it super convenient. And there's huge advantages, not just for me as a human, but also for the planet. When we're using plant-based proteins, that's lower greenhouse gas emissions, which means less impact on the environment. Plus, plant-based proteins don't just give me the protein. I get the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, there's phytochemicals, there's antioxidants, there's so many other helpful nutrients we get when we choose plant-based proteins. And they're lower in saturated fatty acids. What are we going to look for in a plant-based protein? Well, as I mentioned, we want to make sure it has all the right proteins, right? All the different amino acids. That's really important. And then we also want to make sure that we have organic products. I'm a big fan of organic products. I would love to know that my product has got all the amino acids in it I would like, so I'm getting the nutrients I need. I love to know that's organic. When you grow things organically, it's just so much better for the planet. It makes me so much happier. And if you follow a lot about natural foods, if you can get sprouted foods, that's kind of amazing too. I don't know, but you don't have time to sprout things at home. So somebody give me a protein that's got sprouted stuff in it. Or better yet, ancient grains, amaranth, quinoa, buckwheat, millet, chia. I'm a running mom. I don't have time for all of these things. So I love when I can find a plant-based protein that has some of these sort of less convenient and really great for me plant-based proteins. The other thing that's really important is that, okay, great, I've picked a protein I'm really excited about. It gives me some nutrients that I don't tend to find I fit into my day regularly. But if it's a plant-based protein, am I going to break it down? So I need to think about digestive support. So I look for plant-based proteins that have been in a powdered formula that are made a little bit more bioavailable. It would be lovely if there are digestive enzymes present, and probiotics are also really important for supporting gut health. Okay. Before I give you some help in the shelf, I'm going to help you introduce you to the whole protein probiotic connection because I think it's really an incredible one. The Mike, I'm gonna just we're gonna flip around on slides a little bit. I just want to do a big picture. So for those of you who are new to the microbiome or the microbiota, which is all the little bacteria that live in your gut, this is sort of an idea of what it looks like. So the picture at the top of the picture has little red and green guys floating around. Those are all the different types of microbes that are living in our gut. And there's like a mucousy layer. It's kind of a faded color there at the top of the diagram. And the pink things are the cells that line your gut. So the cells that line your gut have these long finger-like projections. They're called villi, and they do a good job of increasing surface area, which is good. So all little nutrients have lots of places to get to, so they can get sucked up into those cells and go into our body. But along that lining, it's kind of mucousy, there are all sorts of bacteria that live there. And the types of bacteria that live there are going to affect how thick that mucus layer is. It's going to affect whether or not things can get through into the body that shouldn't. So is the gut going to be healthy or is the gut going to be inflamed? Can the nutrients get through okay? Is that barrier sort of happy and healthy? And the more probiotics we have present, so the more of sort of helpful microbes that are there, the better off it is overall. And that's sort of what we talk about when we talk about the number of probiotics or probiotics present. Can they keep the gut happy? Is it doing a good job of allowing nutrients in, not being overly inflamed so it's distressed or unhappy? That's what we're looking for in gut health. And when it comes to plant-based proteins, because plants are really hard to break down, it's really fun to think about ways that we can support our gut so we can do a better job of breaking down plant-based proteins. And so I just wanted to share with you a quick study. Now that I sort of explained, probiotics are good for our gut health. Our gut needs to be healthy for us to break down plant-based proteins. We are learning more and more about probiotics these days, and there was four different types of probiotics. So we describe probiotics based on strains. Probiotics have a long naming. So they have L's or B's. So L's stand for lactobacillus. You might have heard about Lactobacillus acidophilus. It's a common bacteria you find in things like yogurt. So lactobacillus is a family name, and bifidobacteria is another family name. So the lactobacillus, they're found in all of sort of our main ecosystems in our body. So our mouth, our stomach, they're also found in the urinary tract and vaginal tract. And the gut as well. The bifidobacteria, those bees, they're generally only, the bees are just found in the bum. They're just found in the colon pretty much. So this is a neat mix. 7 different strains were used in this study. I just wanted to highlight 4 because I felt like 7 was too many to talk about. So Lactobacillus rhamnosus HN001. Key point from a scientist to friends. When you're reading science and you see that name with the letter number combination at the end, that's a strain. So that's like a specific probiotic strain. If you want to see, if you're thinking, whoa, this strain had a really good health effect, and that sounds like that's something that I would like to get. I'm like the population in the study, and I have the same goal, and that probiotic works for them, and I want to go find that probiotic. You got to look for the same strain. You got to find that HN001 or the NCFM. That's the tricky part. Eventually, we're going to know all about probiotics. We're still learning in the scientific world about them. But when you see science and you get really excited about it, make sure you don't just think, oh, it was a probiotic. It's not any probiotic. It's like, do you have a Chihuahua or a Husky? And you got a dog sled to pull. The Chihuahua is going to be a little different at pulling that dog sled than the Husky. So they are really different things, even though they all kind of fit in the same category. We need to look specifically at the strain in the study so we can match that in real time. I'll come back one day and we'll do a whole probiotic talk. I will digress and sort of move back to proteins here. But these 4 strains are really interesting. When they looked at probiotics and their ability to help plant-based protein break down. These four actually did help plant-based proteins break down. So if you're looking for probiotics to support you in breaking down plant-based proteins, here's four to look for. One was that lactobacilli rhamnosus HN001. And I'm stumbling there because they've just changed. Scientists just changed the name, the way that they name probiotics. And the way that it works is it's now called lacticaceae bacillus. It's the same thing. They just needed to give it a different name. We won't we won't worry too much about that. This HN001 is an incredible strain. It's really well researched. There's been over 85 clinical trials on humans. It's got a great tolerance for our body. In other words, it can get past stomach acid. It can head on down to the intestine where it likes to hang out, where it's going to help and support gut health. And that HN001 was actually studied together in combination with another of the probiotics we saw on that list, that NCFM. So these two strains of probiotics were found to be really beneficial in sort of adjusting or making changes in who's living in the ecosystem in that gut. And it was thought to be really helpful for folks. So that's sort of good to know. So we're seeing these strains have got lots of studies behind them and some pretty great benefits. Um, LPC 37 or Paracaceae LPC 37 is sort of the long name. It's got some neat human clinical trials behind it. This one was called the SISU study, and it involved 120 healthy adults. And I like this because it's a big, broad range. We've got 18 to 45-year-olds. They took a pretty small amount. This is a good point to talk about. This is like 2 billion. This is a really little amount of probiotics. And I think that that's sort of also the illusion we get when we think about buying a probiotic. We think, I have to buy more. More is better. This is a good study to talk about. The 2 billion was enough. It did it. It did its job with just 2 billion on a regular basis for 5 weeks. So sometimes we look at the shelf and we're confused. And do I buy the one that's even more? More billions better? It's not so much about more is better, it's the quality that matters. So you want to make sure you're finding probiotics that in them, or probiotic products, that in them have strains you're seeing in things like studies. That's what's really important. It's like, I don't care if I have 50 Chihuahuas, they're probably still not going to pull my dog's leg. But one or two Huskies is going to do the job. If you're a hockey fan, here's another example. I could get 20 dads from the little beer league, or I could get five NHL players. Five NHL players, the quality there, they're going to do the job. They're proven. They know that I know that they can do the job I need them to do. So sometimes quantity is not necessarily the way to go. Sometimes it's quality. One last one. I imagine if I would have gone through all seven. We're just gonna go through four. So the last one was a bifido. I wanted to talk about them. Bifidos are really interesting microbes. They love the colon. They're really helpful there. We tend to see our numbers drop as we get older. So it's kind of a fun thing to kind of keep your eyes about as you get a little bit older, thinking about bifidobacteria. This one's a neat one, this BLO4. There's been a lot of studies on it. I really liked this one because it had adult men and women who are active. So if you're like me and you're joining us because you're interested about how to get better results this year, how to get your gut helping you out with better results, this was a good study of close to 500 humans in this one, and they used 5 billion CFUs a day. So that's sort of a helpful sort of ballpark number too, to know that those are kind of like 2 to 5 seems to be where the studies were going. And these folks had some really great results as well with this study. Okay. So we go to the shelf and there's all these probiotics there. And you flip over the label and you think, it's okay, I listened to Allison. I went to that seminar and I learned all about probiotics and their strains. And then you're faced with this. It's a whole bunch of Latin. This gets me every time. Sometimes I think, wow, how do I navigate all of this? This is a lot. So this becomes really tricky. And I don't want it to feel tricky for you. I hope that you may have noticed that some of these strains I've already you're familiar with them now. They're not Latin to you. They're things you know about. You know about in NH001. You know about LPC37. We talked about LA14, NCFM, BLO4. So there's a whole bunch on here that you know there's clinical studies behind. You know that they've been researched, they've got good results. And the numbers are great. The billions are about where you want them to be. So this is awesome, right? Sometimes you can reach for a product that doesn't look so scary. Here's the other thing I think that's so great about this is there's see all the L's and the B's. You know you've got probiotics that are going to go into the system and they're going to sort of help you out from head to toe. So that's not really head to toe. Sorry, it's an inaccurate statement. From mouth to colon. So this is sort of a great thing to consider. Garden of Life has a whole lineup of probiotics, and I think my favorite thing about them is that they aren't intimidating. So if you are new to probiotics and you're not quite sure where to go, I hope that somewhere on the shelf you're going to find one that is fairly easy to navigate to. So, for example, right in the middle in orange is once daily. Great. Awesome. 14 different strains. I got lots of them in there that we talked about already that have research behind them. It's going to support my gut health. Perfect. And it's a reasonable number of strains, a good dose, good to go. Great. What if you are a man? Would you like one that's tailored specifically to the men's gut or to a woman's? Maybe you are pregnant. You want to reach for a prenatal and knowing that confidence that there's a product that's been designed for you. Are you looking for a little extra help? Do you need the Ultra? Are things not going so great? Ultra might be if you need a little bit more support in your gut health. That Ultra offers 90 billion. That's a little bit more. Or maybe urinary tract infections are a problem for you frequently, and you'd like to do something proactively to keep that ecosystem in your gut. Because remember, the gut lines up the urinary tract. It's not that far away. It's all one flowing microbial group. So urinary tracts, maybe you need something like the urinary tract one or mood. This is a fascinating movement in Canada. More Canadians are really trying to focus on mental health, mental well-being, putting this to be a priority. If mood's a priority for you, maybe the mood product is something that you would want to reach for. So I hope that that makes probiotics a little less intimidating. I gave you a little bit of the science. I sort of debunked a little bit of Latin on the sides for you. And then as you see, so many of the fronts of packages are really friendly. So I hope that sort of helps you navigate the shelf a little bit. But um, before we go back to proteins, I just wanted to explain who the doctor is. That's sort of a helpful thing. I always wondered who's the doctor. It's Dr. David Perlmutter. He is the author of The Grain Brain. You may have heard that. He's a really fascinating neurologist, and he focuses on nutrition, the brain nutrition. And he has really talked a lot about that gut-brain connection, which we could talk about another time, but we won't today. We're gonna move back towards our proteins. Oh, sorry, quick note. Prenatal. This is one I commonly get a lot of questions for, so I'll just jump ahead and make sure I cover these. This is a probiotic formula that is designed to support moms. It has the standard sort of 9 to 5 blend. So there's 9 lactobacillus, 5 bifidobacteria. It is approved for use during pregnancy and lactation. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. So you know that you've got sort of that clean element too that many of you are looking for. And last but not least, these are all non-refrigerated required. So if you're like me and you can never remember, I never remember to go to the fridge and take my probiotic, but if it's lined up on the counter, I'm way better at it. So it's nice to know that doctor formulated products are all shelf stable. You will find them in the fridge though at the store. If you want to store yours in the fridge, please do. It actually kind of they last a little bit longer that way. But they are perfectly fine on your counter as well. They've done all the lab testing and it's good till the date of expiry. On your shelf as well. But if you want to put it in the fridge because you're used to it, that's totally fine. One other question I commonly get is about the mood formula. You'll notice that it contains ashwagandha, which is an incredible natural herbal medicine, well supported for balancing sort of mood and wellness and those senses. So that is included in there as well and may be supportive for some people who are struggling to sort of tackle the stresses that happen. Interesting enough, cool studies on ashwagandha as well and the stress that we put on our bodies physically. So if you're an athlete, if you joined us today because you're interested in sort of like proteins and muscle building, probiotics are hugely impactful in inflammation in the body. Probiotics and gut health have a fascinating, there's actually microbes in your body that use lactic acid as a fuel source. So keep your gut health happy, and it will help you as an athlete. And ashwagandha is a natural herbal medicine that one of the Health Canada statements that they make is it also supports athletes in extreme stress situations. So if you're somebody who's pushing your body a lot as well, ashwagandha can actually sort of help navigate some of that. So sorry, cool sidebars. I hope you're all finding of these helpful. And that urinary tract has the cranberry in it. So if you're somebody who struggles with urinary tract infections, you may find a cranberry extract is really helpful and supportive in sort of keeping everybody where they're supposed to be and keeping you happy and healthy. So Doctor Formulated has that same formula that Dr. Perlmutter has recommended. It's got that 9 to 5 blend. It's got those research-backed strains in it. It's shelf stable, which I find so convenient. It's dairy-free and soy-free. It is in a vegetarian capsule, and it is non-GMO tested as well. If you don't know iGen, that's how they test GMOs. And for those of you wait, you're all in Ontario. This was done by a graduate of the same university as me at the University of Guelph. They went and decided to find a way that you could test if there's any GMO like proteins in things, and this is sort of a fun new out of Guelph technology that they've come up with. So get excited about that label if you see it out there. Okay, as you can see, Garden of Life goes to the extra effort, like the no soy, no dairy, looking for things like non-GMO tested. They really try to bring clean products, and I think that's why they're one of the products you'll find in my own home as well. They have certified vegan on their products that are plant-based proteins. They also are informed choice. So if those of you who are here who are athletes, stick around. I'll talk about what that means in a few minutes. They are really keen on organic and non-GMO. And of course, they're trying, they talk about no junk. They don't want stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. So when we're looking for plant-based proteins, I find the market is overwhelming. Anybody else go down the protein aisle and it's a bit sort of overwhelming. So let me break down some of the options that are out there so you can feel a bit more comfortable in finding something that's going to fit into your lifestyle. So this raw organic protein is plant-based and it's got over that 20 grams. This one is 22 per serving, which is helpful. And it has those branch chain amino acids. Remember those amino acids that go straight into the muscles, which is really great for fast recovery. So it's got those in there as well. There's no sugar, which I'm a big fan of because I'm going to eat my sugar in some other delicious format. I don't need it added in my protein. And there are there are probiotics as well in every scoop. And I think that's really exciting. So you're supporting your gut, which is going to have a hard time breaking down proteins. So this product also has digestive enzymes in it. And it's not just like a couple of digestive enzymes. I had to do a chart the other day to help some of the scientists out on this one. It's got 11, 12 kind of probiotics, digestive enzymes in there. So there's all sorts of digestive enzymes to help you break down from the cellulose of the plant to all the amylase, all these things are getting broken down to help you break down these plant-based proteins. And I think you'll see it right on the front of the label. It says it's vegan and it's easy to digest, and they added in the probiotics as well. If you want it in chocolate, you can have it. If you want it in vanilla, it's there too. And if you're like me, you want it unflavored because you want to throw it in a smoothie of your own flavor creation, then you've got that option as well, which makes me super excited. I like to choose organic because it's good for the planet. I don't know if you are into this sort of organic farming practices, if you know much about them. I love that when the soil is taken care of and you build that ecosystem correctly, you actually can help that farm grab more carbon dioxide out of the air and put it back into the soil. Also, we know that organic farming uses less energy, less fertilizer, and that means that there's actually a sort of a better overall environmental impact. And I think that's really exciting. So if you've been wondering about, should I buy organic? If it makes you feel good knowing it's great for the planet and the farms too, you can go home knowing that that is great. I also really like thinking about how most of the plant-based proteins at least contain some form of pea protein. And when we're looking at organic pea protein, we can see that it is grown in an environmentally more friendly format when it's organic. And I need to sort of break this down a little bit. Lectins are a component that are found naturally in plants. So the plants are really complicated. I feel like we don't do enough about plants. Plants are full of all sorts of interesting things, but in some plants is something called lectin. Our body really struggles to break down lectin. Peas are naturally low in lectin, which why peas protein is actually one of our favorites to sort of reach to as an option when people are thinking about what am I going to put in a plant-based protein? What's going to be helpful for people? What's also really interesting though is that if you can do things to plant-based protein, so you can actually do a really gentle heat. So I'm not talking about like cooking it or denaturing it, just a little gentle heat. You can actually further drop down some of the lectins in plant-based proteins. And you're going to find that in nature, in the Garden of Life's plant-based proteins, they take that extra step. So they take that plant-based pea protein and they just give it just a little bit of heat, not a lot, just enough to get that lectin down even farther. So combine that with the probiotics and the digestive enzymes in that. This is why people always say to me, I like the Garden of Life plant-based proteins because I can actually digest them. It's one of the few products that people say it's easily digestible. And what I like is I can just have one tub on my counter and the whole family because, as I said, I'm running around with kids going everywhere. I don't have time for these things. If you want an all-in-one shake, if you've got a busy lifestyle, maybe you have family members that just don't want to eat anything green, this all-in-one shake I'm a big fan of because they added in 44 of the superfoods. So there's a lot of green things in there. There's a lot of fruits and veggies in there as well. So it's giving us the whole sort of meal things that we want, the fruits, the veggies, all that kind of stuff. We got the protein in there. There's some fiber in there. And again, we've got the digestive enzymes and the probiotics as well to help us break us down. So this all-in-one is really helpful. There's a vanilla, a chocolate, and a lightly sweet. The lightly sweet is the one I like to use in my smoothies. So as you can see, it's got lots of really great things in there, and it does have less than 1 gram of sugar, and it's got some grams of fiber. So if you're also struggling to get enough fiber in, know that, it's in here because plants have all sorts of things in them, right? Not just the proteins, they've also got some fiber there and minerals too, which is great, and vitamins. All right, for my sporty friends who have joined us tonight, if you are somebody who is really interested in a certified clean plant-based protein for sport, this would be the one you want to reach for. So I love that there's a sport right on it. So this is an organic plant-based protein. So this is similar to the other products, but this one is focused on protein. So it's got that higher amount of protein per scoop. It's 5.5 grams of those branched chain amino acids. So they really tried to find plant-based protein sources that are really high in the protein, really high in these branched chain amino acids. And then they've got an assurance that there's like that glutamine, the glutamic acid, those athletes are out there are not in your head going, right? Those are two things we know are really helpful for sort of recovery and repair. So these are helpful. You'll also find things like tart cherry and turmeric, other key phytonutrients we know are helpful in sort of reducing inflammation and improving repair of muscles when we're exercising them. So this is a great option. It is certified by the Informed Choice, which is a logo that athletes can reach for confidently, knowing that if they take that product, it doesn't contain anything that would be a banned substance or would show up in blood work as a concern. It's also NSF certified for sport. Garden of Light goes the extra, like there's all these certifications on here. They really make sure that their products are meeting the highest standards. They get them tested and certified all the times for purity and quality and all of these extras. They really want you to feel like you can reach for their products knowing that this stuff's clean. It's a really great product. And what I love is there's all these recipes online. If you're like me, you got to figure out how to actually turn this protein into something. And this is one of the ways that you can do that. There's like a green smoothie online. They have things like chocolate cherry cheesecake protein cups, right? Like these all sound delicious. So if you're looking for some inspiration as you're trying to find more ways to get plant-based protein into you, I hope you found some great recipes out there. I know there are lots as well. If you're looking for ways to use a protein powder, there are also some options here online. All right. You have all been amazing. If anyone needs to run, go ahead. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out the chat box here. I can see there's a bunch of questions, and let's see if we can get you some answers. All right. Peter has says that I start my day by blending Garden of Life raw organic protein powder at breakfast. Hey, way to go, Peter. That was probably early on. We were talking about that really great impact of getting protein in early in our day, helping us lower some of those hormones that make us hungry. It's going to sort of help keep our blood sugar levels from spiking as well, particularly for somebody who likes to have something sweet in the morning, and that can be really helpful. So it's a great way to start the day. I also have some friends that work in jobs that sometimes lunch is a challenge, so they will take the protein powder with them mixed up in something like a liquid or a shake, or have it separate and mix it into their shake cup later, and they find that that's a great way to get protein in at lunch. So lots of great options, and those cherry cheesecake protein cups or whatever, I'm feeling like that's calling me for dessert tonight. So maybe we'll put some protein in at the end of our day too. Amanda, and she says, I used to do protein power, but I think natural is a way better. Yeah, totally. If you can, I'm always a big fan. If you can use whole foods to get yourself all of the nutrients you need, that is amazing. And bravo for you for developing a lifestyle that allows you to do it. I just like to know that with times when things are busy or it's finding it inconvenient, it's nice to know that there are some options like protein powders up there. Amanda's also asked my view on the keto diet. Okay. Science of the keto diet was a fascinating research study to see its impacts on certain types of brain function and patterns in certain disease states. And then it sort of became this diet. And you know what? It's a diet. It's very low in carbohydrates. I do not see sufficient research yet to suggest that that is the best diet. We still see over and over again that the well-balanced, sort of all-rounded, whole food-based sort of food diets are best. I hate to go by, everybody's like the Mediterranean. We've heard that before. Mediterranean, DASH diet. These are all sort of the standards that have been around forever. The blue zone diets are all very similar to those kinds of diets. Those tend to be the ones that the bulk of the science is still pointing towards as being our better option. However, as I say this, please remember that everyone needs to pick a diet that works for them. Every human body is different, from your genes to your methyl groups. That's a whole nother talk we'll talk about a different day. To your lifestyle and what feels good. You might have intolerances. You might like or dislike certain foods, right? I've got a couple picky eaters in my house who dislike certain foods, so we're not going there. You got to pick a diet that works for you. So please, reach out to people who work with you, healthcare practitioners, and find a diet that ultimately is going to get you where you want to go. Lynn asked, does it matter if a product is geared towards women or men? What would your difference? Okay, Lynn, I think you're asking probably about the probiotics. So fascinating breakthrough in 2025 in microbiota research found that the woman's gut transforms during perimenopause and menopause and changes almost more to be like a man's. Perimenopausal women, 90% of them see changes in their gut health as they go through. And that's fascinating. I'm really excited. Women's health is kind of getting a push. It's getting a spotlight in research. And I think we're going to learn more. When you're looking at probiotics on the shelf and they're geared towards women's or men's, what has been done is that the strains, remember those letter number combinations at the end of a probiotic name? That tells us what a strain is. Each strain gets researched on its own first, and then science will do them in groupings later on. Each strain has characteristics to it, places it likes to live in the body, things that it's really good at. And in women, we tend to see certain strains do a really good job in things like the vaginal tract, which would be advantageous to women then to supplement with. So when you look at the women's product, they have a bit more of a focus on some of those strains that have been linked to sort of women gut health and women benefits. The men's ones wouldn't necessarily have made that same focus, but the doctor formulas that they all have that 9 to 5 in there. There's a few additions or movements as well, or the numbers change the sort of the concentration of each. Have I give my husband the women's probiotic occasionally? Absolutely. Yeah, these are all microbes that are found in humans. They're all known to be beneficial. What's nice though is that these formulas are tailored slightly to each sort of population. So it's not that you couldn't use them, but definitely a woman would have more advantage. There'd be more more advantages, oh my goodness, for a woman to reach for the woman's one and a man to reach for the men's one. And same thing with kids. So, like a kid's probiotic would be higher in concentrations in the bees, the bifidos that live in the bum, because that's just the different populations you see in kids. And as we age, it sort of changes. So, as a kid, you see lots more bees. Women tend to have an importance. They need certain sort of lactobacilli to sort of keep the women's tracts happy. And then as we get older, we tend to have to lean more into the bees again. So you'll see that there's age groups on probiotics, and they're just trying to tailor combinations of strains and and how much of each strain is in there to sort of meet each unique person's need. Oh my goodness, I could talk probiotics tonight. Okay, back to questions. Um, Lynn is saying that she supports organic. High fives. Yeah, I'm a big fan of organic when I can get it. What about hemp protein? Great. Companies like Manitoba Harvest. Absolutely. Yep. Great, great. Hemp protein's great. Sometimes they have like a hemp seed that's been, oh my gosh, I have no words for it. Anyways, it's like delicious. It's nutty. You can sprinkle it on top of things. I like that idea. It's a whole food option. That's great too. Um, Pea protein is really easily digestible because it's low in lectins. And then the Garden of Life pea protein, again, has that little bit of a heat to it. As I said, it's not strong enough to do anything to it. It's just enough to get that lectin level down. So the pea-based protein that you'll see in a lot of the formulas from Garden of Life are really easily digested. Now, as I say that, it's not just pea-based protein. Look at the labels of each of them. They have the all-in-one, the raw organic, um, there's a protein in greens too, and then the sport ones. They have slightly different makeups of plant-based proteins in each one. So if you're somebody who wants like the sprouted brown, there's a sprouted brown rice. There's some with like the ancient grains in them too, and you can find those. And I feel really bad. I'm like 95% sure most of those are found in that plant, the organic raw plant protein. So not the all-in-one, not the greens, the raw greens. It's the one that says like plant-based protein on it. That's the one that's got sort of that more diverse mix. But so they have lots, and the ingredient lists are really long on those products. It's great. They put all sorts of things into it. Peter, do I need to purchase a probiotic capsule product if I'm already using Garden of Life? Right, good question. So the Garden of Life products have those great, it's like a dozen different digestive enzymes in there, and they've tried to pick proteins and get that pea-based protein so it has low lectin. So people find it's really well digested. And there's that little bit of probiotic in there. This is a really great question. Do I need probiotics? So your microbe is constantly changing. Stress, diet changes, traveling, medications like antibiotics really do it in. There are different reasons that your microbiota, which is like that ecosystem, might falter a little bit. Bad guys might start to grow, might be more inflammation, digestion might not be going so well. And in those cases, that's when probiotics are really helpful. And when we look at the totality of science with probiotics, it says that sort of, frequent daily-ish is sort of the word they sometimes use of probiotics is important. Now, as I say that, I've also seen studies where people just kind of took it over 4 week-ish, but they didn't really take it daily. They just kind of tried to take it regularly, and we saw results. I also have seen people I've chatted with have said, oh, I take a probiotic kind of the days I remember. It might be 5 out of 7, for example. So it's maybe not necessarily daily. It can be helpful though if you're struggling with like UTIs, yeast infections. What other health claims are there for probiotics on the market? Gut health, IBS, there's some out there. So there's products sort of designed for different health needs, and you can see that on the fronts of labels that are out there. So if you're struggling with any of those things, constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, then yeah, probiotics can be really helpful. Peter, if you're rocking it, then you're rocking it. That's great. Then you may not need to add in a probiotic. Do you recommend digestive enzymes? Yeah, if you're struggling with digestive health, if you find tummy troubles, pain, those sorts of things, it could be digestive enzymes or a lack of them. Always speak with a certified healthcare practitioner if you are concerned about your gut health. They are super helpful, and find one locally. Ask around who's good at digestive health, and find somebody who can give you sort of some support there. In terms of myself, I find a digestive enzyme. I know there's like some that are chewable and peppermint out there. It could be really helpful if I go late at night out to like a big dinner or something. My body's a little bit tired. I ate a lot of really rich food. Maybe my body's not doing a great job of breaking that down. Sometimes that's also a really great time to use them. Sharon, prebiotics, great question. Oh, I love prebiotics. Okay, so prebiotics are different than probiotics, and I wish scientists wouldn't use words that are so complicated. So a prebiotic is kind of like a fiber, right? It's something that the probiotics are going to do better when it's around. So a whole food diet that contains lots of plants, which whenever you hear me talk, you'll know I always be like, eat more plants. It's super good for us. They contain all those little things that are like prebiotics that can support our gut. So is there any prebiotics in any of these? Yeah, so there's going to be prebiotics, like there's fibers in the products. They don't necessarily get labeled or called prebiotics. For various reasons. So you may or may not necessarily need to have a prebiotic in your life. As I said, lots of whole foods is still thought to be a really great way to sort of nourish our gut and give it what it needs. Oh, Amanda's asking, is there any kind of test to see what you're lacking in your gut in terms of good bacteria? Yeah, I've seen these out there. However, uh, there's no magic solution. Like, okay, that's the microbes you've got, but then what do you do? There's no like perfect amount. We don't know. There's no map. There's no like perfect solution of, okay, here's your results, and therefore you need to take these strains. We're not there yet in science, unfortunately. Give us a couple more years. Maybe a decade, and hopefully we will have something that's a more personalized nutrition. I know that's the way that the universe is going, is trying to realize everybody's body's different and we can tackle these things more uniquely. But at this point, unfortunately, Sharon, we don't have that. Oh, Shay is asking about sprouted protein. Okay. So when you have a seed, it's really dormant, and if you can get it to sprout, then it's starting to like minerals and vitamins and enzymes are starting to get activated, and things are starting to happen because we need to have the chemistry to make the thing grow. So suddenly now, instead of this dormant sort of meh seed or grain, we've got something that's sprouted. So there's been some really interesting movement and desire to try to find more sprouted things or eat more sprouted things versus them just in kind of their dry dormant state. So that's sort of the idea behind sprouting. Catherine, you asked the $1 million question. What's the best time of day to take a probiotic? Whenever you can remember. That's when it's great to take it. They've done lots of studies. I know back in the day we talked about probiotics, you should take them with food. That's been long dismissed. We've seen studies since then where they've tried probiotics with food, without food. If you're taking a really good quality probiotic, just like sort of the ones we talked about today, they're going to be fine. They're going to survive your stomach acid no matter what you've put in there, and they're going to find a spot to sort of hang out in your gut and help you with that gut health. Peter, I think here's the last question, and then we're going to sort of wrap up for tonight. You've observed better digestive behavior since I started taking a daily protein powder regime. Yeah, so it's really fascinating to think about how our bodies can be so much happier and healthier when we give it fuel that it really likes and needs. So I hope that tonight everyone has learned a little bit more about things we can do to have a better gut, how we can maybe get some better results by leveraging plant-based proteins, understand a little bit about how plant-based proteins can be a little bit difficult to digest, but there's something we can do about it. We can reach for certain formulas. We can make sure that we have things like probiotics present, either by nourishing them or supplementing if we need to. We can consider digestive enzymes, and of course, eating lots and lots of protein and plants, because plants are great for us. You're welcome, Lynn. Thank you so much, everyone, too, for joining in tonight. It's been such a delight. Thanks, Shay, too, to have you here, and look for me maybe to return soon one day. If not, check me out on social media, and I'll try to keep you up to speed with where you can find my next talk. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care and stay healthy.